Welcome to More Than a Brand podcast, where we show you how to take your brand from basic to badass. I'm your host, Lindsay Trammell Jones, the WordPress Whisperer, the Olivia Pope of Web Design, and the owner of Fiercified Creative and Consulting. I invite you to sit back, grab your favorite glass of wine, and your note takers, because I'm dropping jewels all season long. Thanks for listening. Hello. I am here with my dear friend Jacq, the copy whisperer, the creative director, creative connoisseur, a person that is near and dear to my heart, who I adore and love everything about her because of how creative she is. And she holds a lot of different titles. But without the titles, Jacq, please tell them who is Jacq? Who is Jacqueline?
Jacqueline is a person that wants to look under every rock and see what's actually going on underneath it. She's a treasure hunter, a storyteller, a nurturer, and a pretty damn good dinner party host, I would say myself. So yeah.
Oh, a dinner party host. Do you cook, Jacq?
Oh my God. That was my past life career. I cook professionally.
Oh, I did not know that. So you've been creative in all sorts of ways. So from hobby to cooking, sculpting. I don't know if everybody knows that.
Remaking, yeah. Painting, directing, yeah. Very ADHD sounding. Like anybody that's neurodivergent that's hearing this knows that I have like a stack of abandoned items for each of those things I just listed.
But it's helped you to mold and shape who you are, like what your brand is. And I know this is more than a brand, but can you talk? I met you as the copywriter, and I've always told you in our many conversations, I just didn't feel like that fit all of what encompasses who you are. Can you talk about that shift from being more than a copywriter?
Yeah, you weren't the first person to tell me that, and a lot of people told me that, especially during like I initially get into this kind of like a deep dive call with clients. You know, you have your kickoff call, but for me, kickoff calls always felt like something that should be like transcendental, right? Like it should really get to the source of who you are and unlayer things. And you know, I it's funny, I've been doing a lot of, I think our brands, our businesses are such a strong reflection of who we are. And our brands and our businesses evolve a lot as we evolve as people. And sometimes evolving isn't just like moving forward. Sometimes it's actually going back and finding who we were like as little kids and what we did and who was always there before all the layers of crap came after. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on your podcast.
Go ahead.
I was like, that was a lightweight version. So, you know, and I kind of went back and had these memories of me with like treasure boxes and playing with hieroglyphic stamps and all these things. And I think I always really wanted to know what wasn't being said, right? What parts of people were not showing up fully, what part were they hiding? Because to me, those parts are always the most interesting parts, right? Like if you go to a party, the person that's quiet in the corner of the room, which I feel like was you in a couple of instances when we went out.
A lot of instances.
Yeah. Usually the person that has the most to say, the best things to say, it's because they're not so overly produced, you know? So for me, copywriting was just a means of showcasing these very incredible, powerful, passionate, I like to call them accidental revolutionaries, because of the way they change things in the industry, not because they're trying to be revolutionaries, they just are. That first through copy is just showing who they are through their voice, and then that just kind of expanded of why would you just show it in the copy? Why wouldn't you show it, you know, when you never together on sites? Or why wouldn't you show it through the photo shoot? Why wouldn't you throw it through the video? Why wouldn't you throw it through everything that you touch, both in life and in business, both online and offline, right?
Yeah, I like that. We have those conversations about it's scary. Would you say it's scary to show?
Hell.
It is, because you say it so eloquently. Like, why wouldn't you show it? And that's how. In all our conversations, when I talk to you, I'm like, Jacq's so relaxed, and she's just like, "Why don't you do this? Go ahead, darling."
You do That's a hell of a lot easier. I don't know if it's for me the scary part with not knowing what sides of me I wasn't showing and then showing it. What was scary for me was acknowledging there were sides of me that I wasn't showing, sides of my work that I wasn't showing up in, but not having all the details in place, right? Like not and you and I have so many questions like you saw me pivot around, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Because I think the world kind of the message we get is that we're supposed to have it all figured out and we're not supposed to make any steps until we know exactly what every piece of it's supposed to look like. And that's not how creation works. That's not how we make things in real life. So I think what's scary is it's kind of like walking in a cave with a flashlight, and that flashlight is just showing you the next few feet, but the rest of it is still darkness. Like that's the part that's scary as hell. I have no idea what I'm doing out here.
I said that to like a friend of mine. We were in a group, in a networking group, and she was like, "You always seem like you got it all together in your business," and I'm like,
You're like,
"That's a lie."
the rest of this quarter, maybe. Like, I don't know what's
The
happening.
rest of the week.
um, I think it's scary. It is scary, but I think the scary is a good thing. That means you have space to reinvent yourself. I think the fact that your friend thinks you have it all together and you thought that I'm all relaxed and calm probably shows that we maybe need to be a little bit more vulnerable in our space,
Yeah.
a little bit more transparent about like what's going on behind scenes so people understand this is normal. This is part of the process. Relax.
Mhm.
Um, a mutual client of ours, Radaya, she told me once, trust the chaos. And
Mhm.
because like I literally came to her like, I don't know what to do. Like, just trust the chaos. And she's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Everything in its time will come to the surface.
I like that. So you mentioned, I'm gonna go back to the beginning. You said something about young you, like
Yeah.
the childhood you before, or anyone at childhood before all the outside entities come in, before you go through that weird middle school age where you don't know who you are and you're trying to figure out and all those things. Would you say young 10-year-old Jacq is proud of you?
Oof. Oprah going for the tear. Well, I want to preface this first by saying I have in the past lightly shit on the idea of childhood work and shadow work and stuff like that and dismissed it. And I've been having to go and do it now. And I'm like, that's the work, man. Like
Mhm.
that's do I think 10-year-old me is proud of me? Absolutely. Absolutely. I had I had a very full circle moment a week ago. Um, so when I was older than 10, maybe I was like 12, 13.
Mhm.
I was lucky enough to get to go on a shoot, like a commercial shoot, and like take a kid to work kind of day, right? Like, and witness, how a shoot goes, and loved it. Fell in love with it immediately. The part that was weird for me was so this it was I'm like I don't need to date myself. I'm like so like it would be like early 2000s, I guess, late 90s. How old am I? Graduated in '07, so like yeah, early 2000s. um and it was on set for a beer commercial. I won't say which beer brand, but pretty much most beer commercials are the same. um and a bunch of women in the middle of the shoot happening, a bunch of gorgeous women walk in with suitcases, stand in a circle, and the director was just like, okay, you and you, and these women were like props in the background of this commercial. And so you can imagine at 12 years old, you're already like comparing yourself. You see all these gorgeous women in your brain, like, what just happened? And then the rest
Yeah.
of them took their suitcases and left. So to go from that moment to last week, I don't want to give away too much about what the shoot entailed, but it was, I mean, I was the writer and the director of the shoot. So it was a women led shoot for a women owned brand that
Mhm.
focused on healing women and getting them out of their limiting beliefs and expectations. So it was a complete, like, for the first time for me to step into the directorial role of a commercial shoot, from being there in the background and watching this to doing it, but now getting to do it in the way that I wish it was done then. To me, I think that's the part that she would be the proudest of, right? Like, yes, we're creating and we're creating in a way that I think it's the way that it should be going now, you know?
I think childhood us teaches us a lot of I've done some shadow work. I think for me, childhood me growing up in the South in a predominantly white schools, and then I remember when they changed the school lines, and it encompassed more of the lower income, which was mostly Black families in the area, for them to come to the school that I was at. And in that moment, I thought that, well, maybe I ain't Black enough because that's not how I was raised. So
Yeah.
I ended up in a space where I was like, I'm obviously I'm not white. And I don't maybe I'm not Black enough for the Black kids. And I just was always in a weird space, especially during those young me years of where do I belong and how do I show up as myself? And then now as I have my own business and as I'm working with those clients and especially those shared clients that we have, they're showing up in them as themselves. And I'm pretty sure at some point in their life they was like, I don't know I don't know what mask to put on.
100%. I mean, in case anyone can't tell, I'm mixed. My mom's Egyptian. My dad is, I don't think you even know this. My mom's Egyptian. My dad is Black and Panamanian. And totally feel you on that. Like, where do I belong? Am I Black enough? Am I allowed to speak on certain things? Does this struggle get to be my struggle that's happening out here? Do I, and then now like watching myself living in Mexico, my kids we have like this weird Cuban American household, but it's based in Mexico. And I should have messaged you the other day. My son told me the other day I couldn't help him with his math homework because it was Spanish math. I don't understand Spanish math. I only
Oh,
understand English math. I'm like, I thought all numbers were the same.
yeah.
But we have but those were ideas, right? Like when we were trying to find a place to fit, we were looking at these ideas in these boxes that other people handed us. This is what it looks like to be Black. This is what it means to be
Mhm.
American. This is what it means to be a woman. This is what it means to be a mom, to be a business owner. This is what this looks like. Where do you fit? And you're right. I think a lot of people that we're attracting now as businesses, a lot of people that we're seeing now showing up, I think the way we're starting to show up too in our work even more and more is like to hell with your box, right? Like
Mhm.
there's all these blurred lines. I don't know if this is off the way or not. It's funny. Chris and I were just talking. Chris, my husband. I'm like talking to you, so I talk like I just talked to you.
Yeah.
Listening, I just
You
talked
have
to
to put chapters at the bottom.
exactly. She has little filler ins of
Yeah.
like translating. I was talking to my husband. I got very interested through a client actually around the brand of Bad Bunny lately because of like how fluid he shows up with his fashion and sometimes in a dress and sometimes in a skirt. But he's like going, I feel like I told myself, I feel like he's like Latin Prince in the sense of like he's able to go in these areas that are traditionally feminine, but still holds this very like dominant masculine energy about him, right? Like his lyrics to his songs are very heterosexual. So it's like the people that are all over him, you know what I mean? Like he's redefining, and maybe I'm more partial to it also because living in Mexico, we have a very machote, this is what a man is culture
Mhm.
that goes back forever. For him in Latin America to show up and challenge that, like I'm loving seeing all these people just kind of coming through in different ways and challenging the concepts and the scripts that were written for them without an asterisk, you know what I mean? Without
Yeah.
like having to explain themselves out of it. I think it's so cool.
Hey, if you are enjoying our show, please hit that subscribe button or hop on over to LinkedIn and follow me at Lindsay Tramel Jones, Brand Identity Designer. That's where I share tips, more insight on branding, and why it's so important as a DEI organization to ensure that your brand is up to par. Okay, that's it. Enjoy the rest of the episode. The world is shifting.
Yeah.
It is shifting a lot. I think about like my child. I have a 14-year-old. If you guys don't know, I have a 14 and a 3-year-old. And the 14-year-old, I remember, young, and I may have been like 12. Once again, growing up in the South, and there was a gay man that went to church with us, Baptist church, and he would sit in the back of the church, and nobody would hold his hand. Nobody would, like when we were praying, nobody would sit beside him. He dressed like, I love the way he dressed. So I adored him because I'm a young girl. I'm a young preteen girl. Like, this guy's fabulous. I didn't grasp all that, his sexuality. But now with my 14-year-old daughter, she she sees people embracing, and this is just about homosexual with people of the LGBTQ
Yeah.
community, and she embraces it. She doesn't see people shunning it.
Yeah.
And even from my generation to her generation, there's a big difference from how the world has shifted from growing up in the South to how she's being raised now. And she's like, she calls my friend her, she's like, that's my gay aunts. And
I
they love it. They love it. I'm like, from here, Candy, love your gay aunties.
I think I can't imagine it for you too. Like, I mean, we lived in the South for a hot minute, and the tension. I can imagine growing up in that space. I grew up in the hate. Well, originally New York, then we moved to San Francisco, and we grew up in Castro. So like the gayest neighborhood of the gayest city in the country, right? At a small, and I just remember like moving there, and there was like a dude literally walking down the street in like red assless chaps and like devil horns walking down the street, like food shopping, and my mom being like, "All right, let's talk." But since then, I think because I was so lucky to have that at such a young age, there's not any, there's no lines, there's no, you know what I mean? Like I was just saying this with a client the other day. I was like, I feel like there are brands and people that are like, there's a line over there. I'm gonna cross that so that I can be a line crosser. You know what I mean? And that's what they want. They want to like show that they're rebellious and crossing the line. And then there are some people who are like, "What line? I didn't see a line." Blah, 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 like, and just go because they're just being exactly who the hell they are, and there is no way for them to exist as who they are. And again, I'm not just talking LGBTQ. I'm talking about in any medium, anyone who this goes all the way over into like now. Yeah, I hear a lot of people talking about shit against like trad wife movements and stuff like that. Right? Like, there are just people in this world who they're being just being is going against the invisible lines in the sand. And the more we do that, the more we are breaking down those lines. We're like basically literally, if there are lines in the sand, we're kicking right through them. And if we enough of us do that, you don't see the line anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's the stage that we're in right now. I don't know if you like listen to astrology and stuff like that, but
Yes.
Do you? Okay. I think confirm this for me if I'm like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think someone said that for 2024, the landscape of astrology hasn't been like this since the American Revolution of like us breaking free from like so the energy is very revolutionary energy right now, very like you cannot tell me who to be or how to show up and
Yes.
all for it. All for it.
I know I was watching some astrology. I cannot think of his name, but I know his Instagram is Queer Cosmo. But he was talking about, he does these short reels about Aries and how things are revolving around Aries, and how during this time we're going to really see if there was any points of contingency in like relationships. You're going to see it, and you're going to find out. You're going to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I've been noticing that. Like, if there's, I've been calling it out. And that's usually that's not my style. But like, well, maybe we're gonna figure it out. But I've just been in this space where I'm like, look, this is what I see. What are we doing?
Yeah. I
And
think on on this side, and again, this is the childhood shadow work. I love how unhinged this conversation is right now. Um, it was I dug up relationship wise, and I can't blame anybody. This was me. I was purposely confining myself, shrinking myself, removing parts of myself for the comfort of others
Mm.
to be loved, right? Like again, going back to astrology, I'm a Cancer. That's what we do, baby. We do love. We love love.
Yeah.
We're the love sign, so we'll do some shit for love. Um, Meatloaf, right? I'll do anything for love. But I'm also at a point now where, again, rethinking how I want to show up in the world, looking at what's next. I had to face that and get to this place of like, are you willing to keep doing this, to keep cutting off parts for the next stage? And absolutely not. So the more you start to see how it plays out a little bit, and as it starts to ramp up, I'm sure I'll see how it plays off even more. And again, I can't blame the other people, right? They got used to whoever is not along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Got used to the way I showed up with them, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like when people say you teach people how to treat you kind of thing. I taught them what to expect of me and what kind of relationship to expect from me. And so now as that shifts and changes, if it, isn't a forever journey with all kinds of people in my life, I don't blame anybody, right? Like that
Yeah.
was the essence of what needed to come next. Shit's getting deep, Lindsay. I was not expecting it. Like, let's talk about brands. I'm wearing my phone.
Well, you are the brand.
Brand, yeah.
You are the.
But again, right? So, but if I'm glad just from that perspective, right? The same thing of like me showing up and be like, Lindsay, go do this. You got this, right?
Yeah.
How the hell am I gonna look at my friends, my people, my clients, and say, show up, show all of you, if I'm not the same?
Yeah.
Hypocrisy. You can't do it. It
You
doesn't work.
cannot.
It doesn't
You
work.
cannot. You cannot. I would. We've had this conversation. So when my dad first saw me, he was like, "She can't be mine" when I was born because she's too pretty. So for a long time, I didn't want to be known. Like, even I'm not tooting my own horn, but I didn't want people to talk about how I looked. I
Wow.
didn't want that to lead the conversation.
Because you were rejected.
Yeah, for
Beautiful.
that thing, yes. So
I want to call out. Wait, hold on. Let's back up because I want to call out
yeah,
in case any listeners heard. Lindsay just said for that thing. For what thing, Lindsay?
because I didn't want to say it.
For what thing was it? I said
for
it.
being pretty, for being attractive. I didn't want people to know me for that. I wanted to be known for. Oh, you're gonna know me for my accolades, all the degrees, this whole list of things that I can do. But I don't want you to know me for my looks. And I struggle with that. I struggle with that going to get shot by Damali. I struggle with that just showing up like this. And it's been a struggle. But I'm getting more, and when we talk about being more vulnerable, being more comfortable, you are the brand. I just started showing up in the way that was comfortable for me and in the skin that I felt comfortable in. And if you wanted to know me by my looks, okay, but you're missing a whole lot because that's just the tip of the iceberg. This is
One thing is why choose, right? Like you're not a one-dimensional human. Like I've gotten to the point where I've gotten to know you and your aspects as an artist, as a businesswoman, as a wife, as a mother, as with your work with everything, with Marie, with everything. There's so many layers to you. Like why wouldn't being beautiful just be one of those layers?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm. I think it goes back to being Southern too. Like when you're born in the South, especially with those old Southern ways, you're kind of seen, not heard. You're not as the man goes out and make the money, and you kind of stay at home with the kids. You're more of an eye candy type thing.
Yeah.
Not saying that I wasn't raised to, have achievements and strive for more, but the overall feel of living in the South and growing up with those baby boomers,
Yeah.
it's, that's
Yeah.
just how they were raised. So that's the first thing. That's one thing that I always I did not want to be known for my looks. So then I end up with a business and a successful career and then all this other stuff. Because one thing y'all not gonna talk about is what I look like.
But
Talk about everything else.
it's there, right? And
Yeah.
it's how we're redefining how we're allowed to show up, how we get to be, right? Like, who says it has to look like whatever? I just think I'm just so done with women being put in a place where we feel like we have to choose. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
bullshit. We do not have to choose by any means. I think I did like an email about this a while ago. Like, someone said, I don't know if it's true, whoever fact checks me, that Marilyn Monroe actually had a higher IQ than Albert Einstein. That's the idea. And if it is true, I just kind of played with this concept of like, what would have happened to the women in the US, globally probably, because she had a global reach. What would have happened though, thinking about that era, if we had just let her be wicked sexy and wicked smart at the exact same time? Like, that would have advanced us so far to
Mm-hmm.
see both at the same time and not have to be like, oh, if I want to be beautiful, I have to play dumb, or if I want to be smart, I have to act like,
Yes.
right? Like, isolating ourselves even more than we had already been isolating. It's things like that now where we're like, okay, but in that moment, yes, the studio heads were in charge and whoever was in charge of making the images that we see every day, which is like old white dudes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But now we all have our own platforms. You have a platform, I have a platform. We all have space to show up. We all have social media. We all have everywhere where we get to like put out there whatever we want to put out there, and we get to challenge the way that it is. And I think it's almost we kind of have a responsibility now, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're complaining so much about how we're being represented as women of color, as you know what I mean, anything, and then we don't change how we show up ourselves.
Being a part of the problem.
First characters, and then we go and play the exact same script for the world. It's like, okay, we can't. We're kind of part of the problem at this point.
Yeah, we are.
And I think, I mean, and it sounds to me like you were responding, right? Like, it's hard because especially, and again, going back to the brand, right? Like, this is why I'm even for those, depending on when Lindsay drops this and how, you know, there will be a brand name shift coming up soon. There'll be a lot shifting. Self-righteous will no longer be called self-righteous. It's moving into something else. And but a big thing that was like a validation of getting rid of self-righteous was someone, once I had shared with a client the direction I was going in, that I was thinking about letting it go, she had responded with the fact that she loved the cheekiness of the name self-righteous, but it felt very much like a teenager throwing a tantrum, right? Like we do get to be authentic and we do get to be ourselves. And you can't tell me who I am. You don't know me, right? Like it didn't feel like now we're moving into grown and sexy.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it is, take it or leave it. I am fully owning it on this side. If you can't hang, go find someplace else. That's all right. But self-righteous felt more like fighting to be able to be seen authentically and to be able to express authentically. Where I think this next stage is more, I don't have to fight for it. I'm going to do it. And that's it, period. Right. So, like, when you were saying the thing about growing up in the South and this is what you're told, I can almost feel like that energy of, you can't tell me to sit here and be,
Yeah.
you can't tell me that I'm supposed to be this. We all have to go through that. Right. But on the other
Mm-hmm.
side of that is, okay, this is who I am. And if it goes along with some narratives, fantastic. If it goes against some narratives, fantastic. But this is it.
This is it. So we talked about past you. We talked about you now.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years? That'll be my last question.
10.
10.
You were gonna say 5.
5. I'll give you 5 then, friend. 5.
Um, where do I see myself? I see myself. Oh, that's a great question. I see myself as a creative partner for. I don't think I'm going to be the person leading a lot of these conversations. Maybe I will in my own way, but I see myself partnering with the people that are leading these kinds of conversations in their own industries, in their own spaces, um, and doing it in some really wicked ways. I see it as we're going to start with the message first. We're going to start with what needs to be done away with and what needs to be put in place first. And then I will either be, I just see more of what I'm doing now. I see myself directing on set. I see myself reworking messages and helping people embrace their stories so that they can use their stories to kind of empower others and go on and change the way things are done. I never saw myself as like an impact maker, you know what I mean? Because usually for marketing, you kind of have this like surface level stereotype about it. But I think by getting to, I'll drop the hint in there, by getting to embolden the people that are showing up to do that work, to fully do it without it being watered down or held back at all through whatever medium that is, words, events, film, that's where I'll be. I see it done globally. I think I'm doing a lot of traveling this year. I don't see that slowing down. I think that's just going to be something that continues. I think I'll have to go wherever the story goes, and I'm okay with that. And I see myself also being witness and emboldening my children in the same way, and watching them reveal who they are every day, and not fighting the motherly urge to control it.
Yeah.
And instead watching it and nurturing it and pushing it and following it. That's I think in the next 5 to 10 years, and I say we because I totally see you being part of this as well. I think we're gonna be breaking down a lot of walls and building on a lot of new. I don't know if that was specific enough. Like that's not
No, it was good.
but I'm like, what are you gonna do in 10 years, Jacq? Break everything. No.
No, that was good. That was good. Can you tell them, well, for now, where can they find you? Oh, so follow now and then.
For now, well, even then, like once new things come for a little bit, selfrighteous.com will still point to what's new. So can make that like an Easter egg in a sense. Follow me on social media now. So at selfrighteously on Instagram. Yeah, that's where they can find me. So mysterious for now.
For now, where can they find you? Thank you so much, Jacq. Do you have anything you want to add before we close out?
No, just thank you so much. I mean, I feel like I just want everyone to know that everyone we discussed, because I don't know if you're saying it enough in these, but I just want everyone to know how much everything that we're saying about challenging and rebuilding and creating, like there's a reason why you and I click and have this friendship, in person, online, in our work. I think it's something that you're doing so incredibly and so beautifully, so organically, really. Yeah, I just want to take those last minutes and brag on you for a second, because I think that's really important.
Thank you. Oh, I am a crybaby, so.
What did we hit? We hit all the things. Astrology, we hit childhood wounds, all the stuff.
Well, y'all, this has been another episode of More Than a Brand. Thank you, Jacq, for joining me, and I will see y'all in the next episode. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Remember, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with the new upcoming episodes. And if you want to, find us on social media at fiercified.agency on Instagram, or find us on Facebook at Fiercified Creative and Consultant. Send me a DM. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your input.